Previously on The Road to 9.
And it's worth it for Beckett's intro and the Sabak game.
Sabak.
I guess the old saying is true. You can't keep a good Dathomirian Zabrak down.
You were wise to trust me.
Until the Clone Wars, Star Wars wasn't known for lengthy life-after-death roles for its characters. Obi-Wan's Force ghosts appear as plot devices to help guide Luke, but that's about it. With Maul, that all changed. Not only was he back, but he had his own character development and story arcs. If you were to look up epic life-after-death careers in the dictionary, you may see Maul right there with the man himself, Big JC. Maul's second return in Star Wars Rebels was both shocking and awesome. His story in the Clone Wars gave us no closure, and for all we knew, he was still out in the galaxy, getting up to mischief and searching for old mate.
Kenobi.
On this step of the Road to 9, we're joined by Laura and Alice of the Force Toast podcast to walk through Maul's final arc, motivations, and his eventual second death. And since I am in New Zealand while this episode records, I guess I'll be drinking alone. Again, thinking about Star Wars.
Thanks for joining us. How are you both?
Fantastic.
We're sleepy. It's early.
Wait, what time is
It's
it
about
though?
7:30 in the morning.
It's like, yeah, about 7:30.
Oh, so just like normal kind of wake up time?
On
Nothing,
a weekend,
you know,
though.
like, oh, what?
Yeah,
Oh,
but we do have breakfast ready.
What is it?
Well, in true Force Toast fashion.
No, in
It's a-
Force Toast fashion, we have drinkies, even
It's-
though it's really, we shouldn't have admitted how early it was.
No, we're
That's-
about to make mimosas real quick.
Yeah. So hold up, you hold yours up,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna add like a little bit of orange juice to these. But there's a
Finish them
very
up.
specific like proportion, and I find restaurants go too heavy with the OJ.
You just want a slight tint.
Is that a dropper?
So we're just gonna. This is a dropper. This is how you get the proper mimosa proportions. This is important information, you guys.
Yeah.
Let's do one.
I think we need like, my favorite number's 4, so I need
2.
4.
All right. 3. 4.
Okay, done.
I think we're good.
We've got mimosa.
that's
Did you
good.
fix yours?
That's the proper mimosa, guys. All right.
This is how we do it with
Yeah.
Force Toast.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Well, I'm
So, yeah,
way less
mimosa's
prepared.
made.
I've just got cider and it's in a can. Yeah, that's good. Wait, hold on. Is that toast as well?
So this is toast.
TIE
TIE
fighter
fighter
toast?
toast.
my
I
God.
believe it's a TIE Advanced fighter.
Cheers.
Yeah, that looks like
Yeah.
Vader's TIE fighter.
Cheers. There it is. Yeah, the TIE Advanced.
Good segue.
Mm-hmm.
It looks kind of like the TIE fighter that shows up in a very early episode of Star Wars Rebels, which is, I believe, what we're here to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Are we? Oh my god, what a surprise.
And I guess, like, before we sort of jump in too deeply on that, I guess, talk to me now, Laura. You're a big Rebels fan.
I am.
Alice,
Not season 1.
not season 1.
But
Okay.
I like I grew to enjoy it.
Let me defend season 1, because season 1 is what really made me, like, fall in love with the Kanan Jarrus character. Because Kanan was, like, going through this whole thing of, like, having to take on an apprentice, and it was very much like what it's like when you, for the first time, have a direct report, when you're, like, working at a job and you didn't ask for a direct
Oh,
report, and then
okay.
you get one, and you're like, what do I do with this person? And so I found that very relatable, because he was going through that in season 1 at the same time that I like discovered the show. And so I found that season very relatable personally. And that's what made Kanan Jarrus very relatable to me.
I was just stoked to have Ahsoka back, so
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
more Ahsoka for everyone.
Mm.
Always.
But what did you think about Maul when he turned up?
I was shocked. I really wasn't expecting it at
No,
all.
I didn't see it coming at all. That was
No.
like, it was super surprising.
No, same. I mean, it's kind of a rare feat, I think. Like, obviously, the reintroduction of Maul altogether is kind of surprising as it is. It's like, Maul's dead. No, he's a big robot spider. But so that was kind of shocking. And then
Yeah, I was totally shocked. And when you look at him, I mean, from seeing him in Solo, you know, he's kind of a big guy and in charge of all sorts of shit, and then we don't know what happens for up to that 8-year period between Solo and when we see him in Rebels, and he just looks really decrepit.
Yeah, disheveled.
Not a big presence like he normally is, or like he was when we last saw him. And we also don't know how long he's been on Malachor either.
Yeah.
But we do know he's been there before, because in the comics, that's where he did a lot of his training with Sidious. So that's kind of how he knew what he was looking for and expecting to get.
Do they talk about how, and this is where my memory's failing me, do they talk about how he got stuck there? Because he is stuck there, isn't he?
It appears to be so. I don't think there's an explanation for that. Or if there is, it would be in the comics, and I just looked up a little bit. I haven't actually read them. But, you know, again, he's really, really, like, skinny and just kind of falling apart, it seems like, when we see him. So it could be a while.
He does say something like, it's been years since I've spoken to anyone, when he finally sees Ezra in the cavern down there. So, yeah, I would think it's been probably a few years, and he's just been, like, eating rats and stuff. So, yeah, he's
hanging out.
Poor guy.
Maybe he just waits for Inquisitors to come and then kills them and eats them slowly.
Yeah. He goes full Ewok on him.
So,
yeah.
You see him in Solo, obviously, now, which has been sort of inserted into that part of the timeline. He tells Kira in that, is it to meet him on Dathomir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he said meet him on Dathomir. So there's this big gap. And I don't think they're going to fill that in with the Clone Wars Season 7, are they? Like, I think that arc is still going to be before pre-Solo, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think all of that's going to take place, or at least the Maul part of it, I think is going to take place on Mandalore, because we know that Rex and Ahsoka and Maul escape from Mandalore, like, at approximately the same time.
Yeah.
And then they re-encounter each other again in the Ahsoka novel. So there's a lot of question marks in the timeline of where Maul is in between all of these important events. So it'll be interesting to see if that ever gets picked up and explored further.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, given how much of a fan favorite he is, like, it seems like a really ripe kind of opportunity as well. Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions with him. And particularly, like, when you first see him in Rebels, he is different, isn't he? Like, I mean, the last time you saw him, pretend Solo doesn't exist for a moment, the last time you saw him, he was basically just getting his ass kicked by Palpatine.
Yeah, and then Palpatine's like, I have other uses for you, and that's why he didn't kill him.
Yeah.
But, you know, one thing you see through his arc in Rebels is he has total PTSD about, like, being by himself and alone. And I think that's just made him more fanatical, because when we found him again in the Clone Wars, he was, like, nutso crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So I think having a young Force user is something that he was just, like, waiting for, and in his time alone, he's just so fixated on this one thing with Kenobi.
So do you think that similar kind of isolation has sort of almost put him back in that kind of headspace? Maybe not as bad, but, like, do you see that in him, or is it something else that you see that's maybe like...
I think it also, one of the things that sort of comes with the territory of him being on Malachor is that he's aged quite a bit, like, in an advanced way. Like, he seems like he's sort of, like, now aged beyond his years, because he's still got this sort of, like, underlying crazy, I think, but he's got this, like, very intense sort of calm focus and intensity that's more present, I think, than it was when we encountered him again in the Clone Wars. Because, I mean, that was just full-blown crazy.
Yeah.
When Savage Opress finds him. And this is more of, like, him just having this sort of quiet focus. And I kind of just think that's one of those things that kind of just came with age. I don't know.
Yeah, and then with his focus on top of that, one of the things that we both kind of thought of and pointed out is he had so much time to just think over things.
Yeah.
And throughout his arc in Rebels, when he's the things he's saying and the reasons and what he's doing really mirror things that we've seen throughout the saga. So he's like, for example, he has almost the exact same conversation that Palpatine has with Anakin. Like, you need to know both sides of the Force to really get something done.
You seem to know an awful lot about them.
To defeat your enemy, you must know your enemy, even practice their beliefs.
Yeah, my master wouldn't approve of that last part.
Then he is doomed to fail.
To defeat your enemy, you must know them.
Yeah, that. And then there's, you know, no one's called me Maul in a long time. That's just like when Luke goes to Ben, Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I haven't had in a long time. Haven't heard in a long time. You see kind of an obsessiveness with Kenobi, just like Kylo has with Luke. Just that very one-track mind to find this one person, you know?
There's also the line where, like, he says something to Ezra about, like, forget the Jedi, forget the Sith,
Yes.
forget attachments, which is, like, very reminiscent of the speech that Kylo Ren gives Rey in The Last Jedi. So it's cool. You see all these, like, sort of parallels, but it's also, like, a lot of it came before in the animation, before it got into the films, which is kind of cool.
Also mirroring Palpatine and Luke's conversation on the second Death Star. Use your hate and anger to strike down an Inquisitor versus, you know, Luke striking down Vader. That's like a huge part of his story. And it's really, really interesting that it pulls in sequel, original, and then unintentionally or intentionally sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So it most of the things he says apply to that. And I thought that was really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
But apart from that, his obsessiveness, we do see his kind of trauma of not wanting to be alone in addition to wanting to kill Kenobi.
The way that Maul gravitates towards Ezra, I think for me was one of the most unexpected aspects of his character. Like, for all the things that I was like, wow, that's Maul, that's Maul. That he wants to take on someone young as an apprentice and start imparting all of that, and that he's got all this information and knowledge and I guess retrospective thought that he wants to impart to Ezra, I found really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that surprising because I don't know how much Maul could sense about Ezra, but Ezra hasn't seen many Force wielders except Kanan. Has he seen anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, so, like, the way that Ezra sort of interprets Maul is interesting to me, too, because Ezra's had Kanan, he's met Ahsoka, he's met the Inquisitors, he's met Vader, he's seen, like, a very, varying spectrum of Force
wide
users, and it's sort of interesting where he, like, when he first encounters Maul, he's not totally sure where he falls on that spectrum, and he's so young and naive, and he just wants to trust him.
And they also have the commonality that they both lost their family.
Yeah.
Right? So Maul finally gets his brother, and he's finally not alone.
The Sith took everything from me, ripped me from my mother's arms, murdered my brother, used me as a weapon, and then cast me aside, abandoned me. Once I had power. Now I have nothing. Nothing.
I know how you feel. The Empire? You took away my home, and my mother, and my father.
Sad.
I know, it is sad. But
he also has, like, this really protective intensity over Ezra at one point. Like, when they're on Dathomir in that cave, and he's like, don't let them touch you. He's, like, very, very intense about it. It's almost, like, kind of sweet. I'm like, aw.
Yeah.
Cuddly Maul.
But he also just obsessively calls him apprentice.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I'm still thinking on that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he does want someone with him, and Ezra understands loss. Also is a Force user who can help him and is impressionable because he doesn't know much of anything. And also Maul's sitting there like, well, I'm not a Sith. I just know shit.
The way that the story kind of pits Kanan and Maul against each other to kind of like vie for Ezra's vie for Ezra's, I guess, kind of not attention necessarily, but respect.
Loyalty, maybe?
Loyalty,
Yeah.
How did you find that play off for you?
Well, this is another thing with a parallel. Like, Anakin was so pissed off with Obi-Wan because he's like, well, he won't let me do what I want and reach my full potential. And Ezra hadn't had the full Jedi training that Kanan had, right? Or a lot of it that Kanan had. So he didn't really have that background of here are the rules and here's what we do. Ezra's just like, I want to destroy the Sith, and Maul had a common goal, and Maul would kind of like pump him up of like, hey, here's your potential. I'm letting you do it. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually, like, it sort of just came to me that this must be kind of a thing that a lot of apprentices go through, because remember in, like, Dooku Jedi Lost, when young Dooku, like, wasn't getting the training that he thought that he deserved from Yoda, he, like, went to a different master, basically, and was like, train me up, let's do this, and, yeah, that's an interesting sort of parallel, too. I think it must just be these young whippersnapper kids.
Dagnabbit.
Yeah. They have no loyalty to anything.
Like, I think that Kanan as a character really grew on me. You know, like when you see those kinds of Force characters, sometimes I think, are they going to be just another pompous twat? You know, are they just going to tell everyone what to do? Like, are they going to annoy me? Are they going to be like Obi-Wan in kind of like the first prequel, as opposed to as he is in the other ones, you know, where I'm just like, I can see there's something a little bit like snide about him. And obviously then when he's in the master role at the start of episode 2, I'm a bit like, God, just stop just stop. But then by the end of the prequels, I was like, yes, I love this character. He's so funny and he's great. And I was really worried about that with Kanan. And I think the way he handles it, like, you know, a young man that is just trying to find his way and figure out who he is really cool.
He has, like, so much patience with him at this point, and it gets even more so. I mean, that sense of things gets even stronger in seasons 3 and 4, I think. But, like, this is really kind of the start of it, where you're really seeing Kanan kind of come into his own as a master. And I really enjoyed it, but on the other side of things, I was hooked on Kanan from the start. He very much, like, grabbed my attention, and I was fully on his side to begin with.
She's like full Kanera. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, hashtag Kanera.
That's the ship.
Yeah.
Which, again, I didn't realize shipping was a word until like a year ago.
That is so funny. You're like a Martian.
I know. I'm
the same. I'm the same. I've been on Twitter for that long, and yeah, people are saying, cheers. People are saying, oh yeah, I ship this, I ship that, and I'm like, what are we talking about? I used to work in a warehouse. Like, I used to manage a warehouse, and I was like, what are you shipping? Where are you shipping it to? Are you like, are you using freight
coming at it from like a very logical.
Are there customs charges that need to be factored into this? What are you doing? Are they collectors?
No, I learned a new word today. What was it? With the Lion King soundtrack?
Slaps. The shit slaps.
Oh, Sean says that all the time.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
It's the thing the kids are saying. Yeah.
It's a bummer he couldn't be here.
Yeah, he's working. He's in New Zealand. I think he gets back. When does he get back? Like on Wednesday or something like that. So, you know, it'll just be me staying up till midnight on a school night, basically. Drinking.
Boo.
Shouldn't be drinking on a school night, but I am.
We shouldn't be drinking at 8 a.m., but here we are.
I know. I'm gonna need a refill because I drink I drink alcohol like water.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, that's the empty one. So, yeah, slaps. So sorry, that's where we were on important things like slaps.
This shit slaps.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sean said another one today on Twitter. It was talking about Lord of the Rings, and he said it's this stabs. And I was like, oh, what the hell?
Stabs?
Yeah. He said that Helm's Deep still stabs. And I was thinking,
love Helm's Deep.
What's the next progression?
Oh my God.
Like, you start with a slap, now you're stabbing.
Murder?
It's like, well, this kills, this slays is already a thing. So, like, I think you've got to go somewhere
Hannibal
else.
Lecter's?
Yeah, this Hannibal Lecter's.
Yeah.
Yeah, this totally
This
cannibals.
Hannibal Lecters.
This murders and eats humans.
This John
That's the
Wayne
next phrase.
Gacy's.
God.
I like that one. I like
We took it there.
This Ted Bundy's.
Ooh. We'll get some Netflix
That's
clicks.
topical, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, this Ted Bundy's.
Mhm.
You got like a feather in your or no?
All right,
I
let's
got it.
bring it back to Ezra. Let's bring it back to.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've talked about.
I can't help it.
Oh God. The Star Wars murderer. Let's talk about him. He likes to kill children. His name's Maul.
Yeah, Anakin Ted Bundy'd that shit.
Mhm.
God.
God, did he eat the younglings?
Ted Bundy didn't eat the people.
He didn't?
No, he just murdered a bunch of chicks.
Did anyone eat the people?
I'm getting all my serial killers mixed up. We've been listening to a lot of murder podcasts.
Yeah. I know there was the one in was it Austria? He wanted to eat people, or was it he wanted to be eaten, or is that just two totally
I think
separate
he wanted
things?
to eat people, and maybe he was a police officer.
No.
I don't know. There's someone watching this by the time it comes out that's like fully into serial killer history and
They're
stuff.
screaming
and
at
they're
the
just like,
screen and being like, "It's
their
up!"
fedoras come on,
Yeah.
their eye patch has gone on, and they're just like,
GTFO.
yeah, they're gonna give me a down thumb.
We'll give you an up thumb.
Oh, good,
Or two.
good. I give myself an up thumb.
We have 2 thumbs, so.
Mine goes sideways, but
Oh,
I can
mine
make
does
it
too.
go straight.
Mine does
Mine
too.
doesn't. Does mine a little? Mine does a little bit.
On the topic of arthritis, why do you think Ezra gravitates towards Maul and his walking stick? Like, what do you think he's looking for in someone like Maul?
Well, I think it's just like
Smooth
Anakin and
segue.
Palpatine.
That was smooth.
Just, it's someone who's pumping him up like, oh, you can use your full potential. You have emotions. Don't bother keeping them in check because it's fine.
Yeah.
And also I'll give you the answers you want because, when they're kind of like make a wish on the holocron or whatever, Ezra's question is, I want to destroy the Sith, which in the Jedi way, like obviously they'd want to destroy, but as a Jedi, they really should be in defense mode, I guess.
Yeah.
Most of the time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like for Ezra, it was just being young and impressionable, and like it was something different. It was, you've been training with Kanan this whole time, and Maul presented a different point of view, and yeah.
And how long has Kanan and Ezra been together at that point?
At that point, I want to say it's like 2 years because it's season 1 and 2. We're at the end of season 2, so it's about 2-ish years, if I had to
it's
guess.
about 2
Yeah,
years.
so he's new. Yeah.
It's kind of a nice insight, I thought, especially when you've got now like The Last Jedi and there's kind of like that bit of backstory where we know that Kylo has, been influenced by Snoke at some point in his past. There's bits of information to do with it in some of the canon novels and things like that. But getting some kind of visual representation of like, well, what would it actually look like to see someone getting slowly corrupted by the Force? Like you see Anakin take a sharp turn. Like basically he's got this thing inside of him, and it's kind of like there's a straw that breaks him, and then he flips. It's not like this. It's not like a slow mentoring and eroding away of anything. It was already there, like little prods, little things that Palpatine gave him and stuff. But I don't feel like he had to do much, like in the overall arc. Whereas someone like Ezra is like he could go any direction, he could go any way, and if he hasn't got someone like Kanan there keeping him kind of in check and like looking out for his best interests. You've got Maul, on the other hand, that is just absolutely feeding him all of the worst things that he possibly could to try and kind of like bring him over and whatnot. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to see in the context of the sequel trilogy.
Well, I think it's also part of it is that Ezra doesn't just have Kanan. Ezra has a whole family of people of support around him. I mean, he's got Sabine and Zeb and Hera and even Chopper that are also there to support him in the same way and sort of back Kanan up in that sense. Whereas Anakin was very isolated, I think. I mean, he was close with Padme, he was close with Obi-Wan, and that was sort of end of list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, Rebels is very much it's a family drama. It's a show about a family and a story about a family. And that, I think, is probably plays a lot into why Ezra ultimately doesn't ever turn fully to the dark side. We see him at the beginning of season 3 kind of like flirting with that a little bit, which is super interesting as you know, for the audience. But I think that, you know, having that family backup was a huge thing for him.
How does he get that information that actually then sends Maul off? Because like they're looking at what I can't remember. And I should have watched it before we had a chat, but I didn't.
Oh my God.
I went out looking for washers and dryers instead because we need a new one.
Laundry.
Yeah, white goods.
Who needs it?
Yeah.
So with the Sith and Jedi holocrons combining, kind of the deal was they could each ask one question, but the holocrons kind of destroy each other. So the questions they asked, Maul said, "Oh, mine's just a very simple one." Ezra says, "I want to destroy the Sith." And when their minds kind of melded before the holocrons exploded, they kind of got a weird mashup of things, but it was actually kind of surprising because it was both the same. It was Luke.
The same.
You know, it was the same answer, but they got different pieces of it. So whereas Kenobi is Maul's, I want to destroy the Sith as Ezra's. Ezra sees twin sons. Maul sees, I think, just that Kenobi's still alive.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Well, there's also the warning that the Bendu gives Kanan and Ezra, where he warns them and says, if you bring the two holocrons together, you might get the information you need, but this is, you know, what it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
This is going to be very dangerous and very destructive. And in that episode where the first time where they bring the two holocrons together, Kanan comes into the room and is like, "You like stop this! Don't go all the way with this." And he stops them before they can really get the answers that they need, and pulls Ezra out.
Shit, that was
And remember,
good,
like
wasn't it?
Kanan's sight came back for a little bit, which makes no sense, but like it was still
no one else could see
like
except Kanan.
Okay, Kanan has like no eyes, so this is kind of weird that is how that worked, I guess, but that's fine. But yeah, he sees them and he pulls them out, and he's the only one that can go in the room because it's too bright for everyone else.
So that's right. Yeah, that's coming back to me a little bit now.
Wow. That's also when Maul gets a t-shirt.
Oh yeah, that episode where he shows
Thank
back
God.
up on their ship and he's got a shirt on, and we're like,
Yeah, he
Okay.
gets kind of like kitted out in these like kind of like hipster hobo chic duds, doesn't he?
yeah, like he
He
just came
does.
from the gym or
Yeah.
something.
He's got like the Poe scarf thing.
Yeah.
And this t-shirt that matches his pants. I don't know.
So the holocrons come together. They mush. They give Maul and they give Ezra each a little bit of basically the same bit of information. It's two answers or one answer to two questions. I don't know. I've had too much to drink.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it sends Maul off on his mission to find Kenobi finally.
Well, there are a few little pit stops. Like,
Yeah.
Ezra starts seeing Maul a little bit, and Maul is like, I know Ezra has what I need because I probably have part of what he needs, and that I know there's a person that's going to destroy the Sith. So they go to Dathomir to do some old witch magic shit and
That's right.
like meld their minds. And that's really when we see what we were talking about earlier with Maul being very protective of Ezra, and that's the one where he says, "Oh, you're a friend and a brother," and also we see
Forget
that
attachments, forget the Jedi.
Yes.
Like, just come with me.
Yes, and we also see that he's very sentimental because he has like these weird shrines to all these different points in his life
Yeah.
that he's just been, you know, it's kind of like a serial killer, like keeping prizes.
Well, yeah, and he's like
You
a
know?
hoarder in this like little cave on Dathomir where he's like, these are things I've collected throughout my whatever. And it's just, yeah, I mean, Ezra walks in, he's like, what's all this shit? Like,
Yeah.
and then they drink the potion, because Maul mixes up a little cocktail for him and the child he's with.
We should
And-
figure out how to make cocktails that have the
Like the foam,
Smoke
the
shit on 'em?
smoke.
Oh,
It's like dry ice.
that,
like dry ice.
I don't want to drink that. That would be bad.
Yeah, I don't
No,
think it's good for
but
you.
like, you know how they do fancy?
Yeah,
We
but we're
should
not
figure-
fancy.
I know.
I know.
Do you know what Goon of
Say it.
Fortune is?
Goon of
Do you know
Fortune?
what Goon
No.
is?
Yeah, it's a bag wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy used that term, and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. So do you know? So
It's like, what the hell is goon?
yeah. Do you know what a like? Clothesline. Obviously, you've got clotheslines there, but you know the ones that spin.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Goon of Fortune is when you get the goon bag and you clothes peg it to the clothesline, and you all stand around it, and you spin it.
Oh my
And it
god.
That's
just,
amazing.
And it just lands, and wherever it lands, like you set the rule, and you say, okay, when it lands, you're going to do it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it may be, and that's the rule, and that's how you play.
Well, what I found interesting is that the pictures we got, at least, the bags were like foil, like metallic foil.
Yeah, they're like a silver.
Here, a lot of the bag wine comes in plastic, like clear.
Oh, that's weird.
Well, they're in boxes, and you've got to pull out the bags.
Yeah,
obviously.
well, same.
You can't just buy a bag. But the only game I know of is Bago.
What's that?
I don't really know. Something where you slap the bag.
Yeah, that's
I
what we
never
called
played
it.
it.
We just called it slap the bag.
Okay. Yeah. I what was there an actual rule to it?
No, I feel like it was sort of like a beer bong, but with wine, where you just like sit underneath it and someone like pours the wine into your mouth until you like choke and die.
But when do you slap it?
When it's getting really empty and you have to like get the juice out of the bag.
That sounds like a horrible game.
It's so stupid. I could be totally wrong. I like wasn't cool enough in college to know
Yeah.
this. I don't know.
Yours, I never played it. Yours sounds way more fun. What's it called
Goon
again?
of
Slap- we
Fortune.
called
Goon
slap
of
the-
Fortune.
Yeah.
Goon of
Yeah, like
Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune, but
I
the
like
prize
that.
is just horrible,
Wheel of
horrible
Fortune.
cheap wine. It's good.
Like the prize is a hangover.
Prize is a hangover.
I
yeah.
love jug wine. I drink jug wine like water. You think I drink this shit like water? Just wait till you see me with a jug of Carlo Rossi.
Oh my god.
You got celebration tickets for next year, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we're gonna have to like Amazon order box wine because that really came in handy.
Yes. Oh my
At
god.
the
At like
bar
the
night.
hotel bar. And I think that we're at the party hotel. I've seen a couple of people talking about the Hilton, and that's attached to the convention center. And I think we're at the party hotel. which works out
you were
real well.
attached again, or like in the
Shit, yeah.
That was just way too convenient this year. So yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right, back on track. So,
Yeah.
we were talking about drinks, and Darth Maul makes like a really wicked cocktail, like with
For the child, yes.
Yeah,
So
for a child.
there's
Maul's-
underage
Maul's
drinking.
the cool uncle.
He basically spikes Ezra's drink, gets him totally wasted, and then they merge
Yeah.
minds.
With magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that's
You know, when you
where
drink.
it all.
We merge minds. That's
Yeah.
how we work.
Mm-hmm. It's the only way this works.
You gotta touch my finger with your head. Okay.
It's like a dry wet willy. It's a dry willy.
I didn't go in your ear. I just was merging temples with my hand. Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
So stupid.
This is what we do
Yeah.
when we record.
works.
This is just what
Oh,
happens.
I'm not
It's all on
recording.
brand.
I just,
Bullshit.
Rewind. Go back to the beginning.
I just
Start
do
over.
this for fun.
My eyes are watering from laughing.
it's-
We're so funny.
Let's get through this. So-
Bitches.
You're an asshole.
Your face is an asshole. Shut up.
no, anyway, I'm out of booze.
Ignore that.
I'm gonna start a third one. Oh, fucking hell. Oh shit! I said fuck. All right, I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
You got a good blooper reel.
Yeah.
I feel like doing that.
That I do. Okay. Oh shit! That was loud. So I did that so that I have like that can opening sound effect. I can always just like go
Oh, I
back
yeah.
to
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Put that in the sound bank.
Yeah.
And bring it.
That one's
yeah,
going
there
in
you
the
go.
Yeah, that was
bank.
really nice.
Whip it back out whenever you want, you know?
God.
Yeah, whip it out.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Maul when he goes to Tatooine. So he's got the information. He's whipped out the information from Ezra's mind. It's gone in his. He's got impure thoughts about that white bearded man Kenobi. He wants to go out there and he wants to find him. He wants to put an end to him. So when that happened, that happens over the course of, is it 1 or 2 episodes where he hits Tatooine? I think hits Tatooine in one episode, and then the next episode it's sort of like the journey towards Kenobi and then the confrontation.
I think so. Tatooine happens all in one episode. Tatooine is just twin sons.
It is just twin sons. Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
quick
I think
episode.
so.
It's weird that they were able to like smash all of that into like 24 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your feeling when you saw it for the first time?
There were so many throwbacks to A New Hope, and I just absolutely ate every piece of it up because we get Tusken Raiders, which is like awesome. I just love the sound effects like that you get from Tusken Raiders. It's such a weird noise. I love it. But one of my favorite moments, I think in all of Rebels, happens in Twin Sons. And it's when Chopper and Ezra are about to sort of venture out into like the open desert, and Chopper doesn't want to go, and he's kind of standing on the edge, and Ezra's like, "F you, I'm out. Like, I'm gonna go."
Oh, it's like C-3PO and R2.
Yeah, and they're like, it's very reminiscent of like C-3PO and R2 when they first land on Tatooine, and they like want to go their separate ways. But as it turns out, as big of an asshole as Chopper is, he's a better asshole than C-3PO was, because C-3PO like set R2 on his own, didn't follow him because he's such a jerk. And at least Chopper is like, you can see the internal struggle, and you can see him kind of. But there's also this like really wide shot of like of Chopper in the sort of center, and it's kind of like the dog looking on at like its master, the dog getting left behind, and it just breaks my heart, and it's so cute. And then he like follows him even though he's just such a jerk, and it's so great. It's one of my favorite moments in the entire series is Chopper almost getting left behind on Tatooine, but then giving in and being like, okay,
and then
I'll
his
follow.
battery expires.
Yeah, and then his battery dies. It's sad. Yeah.
It's real sad.
But I love that moment. So all of Twin Sons, I mean, like people are always going to talk about that huge, what we all expected to be a huge battle at the end, but there's so much good stuff in Twin Sons. And part of it is, I think, the feeling of being back on Tatooine and the scenery of that, even as much as we complain about all the desert scenes in Star Wars, how we just like get so bored of it. Like, it's so nostalgic just being back there in that episode. I love the whole thing start to finish.
I thought it was really interesting how Maul knew Kenobi would sense something and rescue Ezra.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird to me, but
he would sense his like despair and his sorrow, and he would come looking to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kenobi has like this like he kind of played into like this hero thing that like Harry Potter has, where he's got this like sort of like hero game he has to play.
Yeah.
But he knew that he would have to go, that he would sense that and he would go after it.
Well, I found that interesting because you know how in Ahsoka, how she's like, I'm turning myself off from the Force. I'm not gonna like feel out. I don't want people to find me. Yada yada. But Obi-Wan hasn't really done that. And I've only read 2 Legends books, but one's Kenobi. You should read that next. One's Kenobi, and he keeps trying to reach out to the Force because he wants to get in touch with Qui-Gon and like let Qui-Gon teach him.
Well, and in the canon, he does reach out to Qui-Gon. So at this point, so like from a certain point of view, and he's been like reaching out to Qui-Gon. They've been communicating. Qui-Gon's been training him about like how to master this concept of like being active in the afterlife or whatever. And it's a really great story, and from a certain point of view, but it's you sort of see that training still going on with Kenobi, or you see that he's had more training and that he's changed from what he once was.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was really interesting that he found Ezra in the first place, and Maul kind of, like, knew what to do to have him found.
Yeah.
And then in the fight scene, I thought it was the most anticlimactic lightsaber fight I've ever seen in my life. Laura, what did you do?
I disagree. So here's my thing. When I first watched it, I was very confused. Because when I first watched it, I, like, rewound it probably twice to be like, is my video broken? Like, I don't understand what just happened. Like, where's the rest of it? And I was very confused. But after a couple of times of sort of watching it, if you sit and watch and pay attention and kind of break it down, which is hard to do the first time you watch it. It's not your instinct to do, like, stop and pause and go back and study it scene by scene. But once you do that, it's cool. You can see that, like, the different positions that Kenobi takes on, where he's sort of, when he takes on his position and where he's kind of pointing his fingers and holding his lightsaber behind his head. And that's very reminiscent of, like, young Obi-Wan. But then he sort of takes on the, like, it looks like he's, like, at the plate as a baseball player, and he's about to, like, take a swing at whatever is coming at him. But it's very reminiscent of the sort of traditional lightsaber stance that Qui-Gon Jinn used to use. And so he sort of moves through those different positions, and it's just really cool to watch when you kind of sit and break it down, and you can see Maul restlessly sort of, like, he's not even moving or pacing or whatever, he's just moving his feet around, almost like a tiger in a cage, like in The Phantom Menace when he's pacing back and forth.
Yeah.
He hasn't lost that, even in his age.
Yeah.
But the saber fight itself is so quick, and ultimately I really liked it because I like how sort of quick and clean and stylistically how it plays out. It's an interesting choice, and it was probably the right choice, because at that point, how many lightsaber battles have we seen Maul and Kenobi and Maul and whoever and Kenobi and whoever have between all of the canon material that we've seen? This was something different.
I think it really emphasizes how Obi-Wan has grown and had time to think in his exile-ish on Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also shows how Maul is still consumed and driven by hatred. So, like, he hasn't changed at all. Whereas, again, Obi-Wan's grown, Maul has either stayed the same or regressed. But I thought it was really interesting at the end. Maul says,
Tell me, is it the Chosen One?
He is.
He will avenge us.
yeah. So that also kind of takes, I know there's recently been articles about the Chosen One or something that, having to do with the rise of Skywalker, but I think that's the first time we see the Chosen One not being referred to as Anakin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to me, and then it also shows us that that's what he saw that Ezra wanted, because Ezra wanted to kill the Sith or get rid of them.
Yeah.
So Ezra would have seen Luke, and that's how Maul knew about him.
There's, who was it? It was Daisy Ridley said in one of her many, many interviews that she's given over the last couple of weeks, something about the lightsaber hilts for The Rise of Skywalker being made lighter so that they could swing them around better and basically have a more intense fight.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it got me thinking. I was thinking, okay, well, this particular fight that I knew we were going to be talking about, I liked it. I didn't like it at first. But yeah, Laura, similar to you, like, just the way that it plays out in its subtleties, I thought were really, really strong. Like, it is that kind of scene where you could break it down. You could look at each little frame if you wanted to and be like, oh, that's where he's doing this pose. That's where he's doing this. Even I think doesn't Maul go for one of the moves that he did on Qui-Gon or something like that? And that's when Obi-Wan gets him?
Yeah, so Maul sort of, again, because, Obi-Wan has paid attention and Obi-Wan has learned. Maul hasn't learned anything, apparently.
Despite the exile as well.
You get the three strikes of the three strikes between in the fight between the two of them, and the third one is where Maul tries to go up with the lightsaber and bump Kenobi's head like he did with Qui-Gon, but Kenobi sees it coming and is able to sort of strike. That's when he strikes down through the middle of the hilt. of Maul's saber, and it's very cool. It's such an interesting like thing to look at compared to the Phantom Menace, to see how these characters have changed or not changed. It's wild. It's just great.
You see this fight that in 3 hits has probably a hell of a lot more meaning behind it than if they had spent 10 whole minutes doing a fight, which they very well could have. And I think that's what a lot of people were kind of expecting, you know, thought, they're gonna meet again, and they're gonna fight, and they're gonna be like, blah, 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 and it's gonna be insane. And then it was just done. It was done. Mm-hmm. But the result's the same. But they managed to do a fight that basically you could reflect on. You could reflect on each character's history, each character's path, and what's brought them to that point. And then when they get that moment to speak before Maul finally dies, like, you know, that line, Alice, that you quoted is the line that got me. And I think that was the bit where I went from fairly quickly like going, oh, what, that was it? To when he said it, when he's like, oh, he will avenge us, I bawled. I think I just remember like watching it. I just like, and just all of it started coming out. It was just like wet everywhere, moist. Imperial Senate, moist. So yeah, that was the thing that got me. And so I've been thinking about that so much with the Rise of Skywalker. You know, Daisy said that they're going to be like having this insane, intense battle, and it's kind of got me thinking, do I want an insane, intense battle?
Well, you have to almost kind of think about what we've already seen in the sequel trilogy and what we haven't seen yet compared to some of the other trilogies. So we've already seen an epic lightsaber showdown between Rey and Kylo Ren. We've already seen them sort of teaming up and taking on a common adversary. What we haven't seen yet is something similar to this Maul Kenobi fight, where it's quick and where it ends with one enemy cradling the other in his arms as he's dying. That's something we haven't seen like in the sequel trilogy yet, I don't think. So
yeah, I want epic, like Battle of the Heroes.
Yeah.
That score are awesome. And I love that whole fight scene and the emotion at the end that like Obi-Wan gives out with "you are my brother," blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I want something more like that. And you know, one thing about the teaser we've had is the score is so good.
Yeah.
So I'm it seems like the score is going to be the best of the sequel trilogy, because I haven't really been super impressed, to be honest. But I want something like that. And I'm kind of wondering if we're going to have weird, like, Force Ghost fights.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, like, kind of like Harry Potter style, where all the ghosts show up to like help.
Oh yeah.
So somehow we'll see like Anakin's ghost, or I don't know. I hope we see Ewan McGregor again, but
that would be cool.
Who knows?
That would be really cool.
Right?
All right. So, question for each of you: is there something from Rebels, whether it's Maul, whether it's something else, that you would like to see pop up in the Rise of Skywalker?
Ooh.
I think seeing like an adult Ezra would be really interesting, because I've never personally been a huge fan of the character of Ezra, which is weird because the whole show centers on him and I really love Star Wars Rebels, but I've never personally, I mean, like, it wasn't until the actual finale when he like has that moment with Sabine in the season 4 finale where they have this sort of understanding and Ezra's gonna escape and Sabine's sort of on his side, kind of helping him on the sly. That was really the first moment that I was ever like, oh, like, shit, I care about this character, actually. Like, before that, I really never gave a shit. But I think that an adult Ezra would be a really interesting thing to see, because we've seen some of these characters in their younger form grow up and change, like, very much. And I mean, even thinking of just like Admiral Holdo, we have like a teenage version of her in the book, and she's so different in the movie. Right. And I think that'd be really cool to see like how different Ezra could be in adult form if he were to show up somehow in the Rise of Skywalker. But I'm also like, I've mentioned this before, but I'm really hoping for like a Jason Syndulla Force user like character to potentially show up, which is like way overreaching. I'm sure isn't going to happen, but that's my personal like wish of something I'd like to see. What about you?
Oh, something from Rebels that would translate into The Rise of Skywalker. I honestly can't think of anything.
I mean, would you go? You would think like Ahsoka would be a good answer, but she would be so old.
Yeah.
I mean, like I don't know how old Togrutas get, but she'd be like major old balls by then.
I know, right? And like, how good could they make her look? That's the other problem.
Yeah, in live action.
I don't feel like anything from Rebels could be translated into the story at this point.
It'd be hard.
Yeah, because JJ is trying to incorporate everything from the saga itself. And I don't think Rebels, just like from the books too.
Yeah. He's probably not, that's probably, it's hard enough probably trying to incorporate like the 8 saga films that have come before it. Like not even taking Solo and Rogue One into account, just counting the saga would be a lot. So it's not something I have high expectations for. It's just one of those things that would be kind of nice. Even if it was just like mentioned on the side, or you see someone in the background, they're like, oh god, was that Chopper that just rolled by?
Like he's friends with Snap.
Yeah.
Or something.
What about you? What do you want to see? And do you want like a Rebels thing to show up in The Rise of Skywalker?
I didn't until the whole Palpatine reveal. And I thought, what? Palpatine's back? What? And the last time I'd seen Palpatine, obviously, was The World Between Worlds.
Yeah.
I think I tend to agree with you that it would be a bit of a stretch to start pulling in some of the stuff from Rebels. Like, the animated shows have got some of the weirdest shit in it, really. Like, really it does.
The Bendu.
Oh, God, yeah, the Bendu. Like, could you imagine people in the cinemas if like, they're sitting there and it's like, it's Star Wars as they knew it, and then this Bendu just comes out and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
Space Moose.
yeah, Space
It'd be
Moose.
like, what the bleep?
It's just, people would just be like,
Did it.
you think they were confused when Maul turned up in Solo. Like, it's that, times 11. Not up to 11 times
But I think
11.
I don't think it's a stretch to think that Palpatine might be showing up in some form that includes the World Between Worlds. I don't think that's a stretch at all. I also kind of wonder if like Rey's Force vision was sort of a World Between Worlds-esque type of thing. Like we may have already seen it in the sequel trilogy, but I don't think that is a stretch of the imagination to think that Palpatine isn't actually back in physical form, that it's more of like a World Between World thing where it's still very real and very much happening, but it's not necessarily in the physical world as we know it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe that. Maybe something to do with Palpatine and that World Between Worlds. That could be, if there was going to be a bit from Rebels, could be that.
Wouldn't it be cute if we saw Mirai?
Yeah. The Convor, Ahsoka's Convor.
Yeah.
She'd be really old, but she'd be like decrepit and just have one wing. Just kind of flapping
Really
around
flopping
like,
around.
yeah. Ray would be like, oh my god, what is this supposed to do? Is this supposed to help me? Like,
But maybe we don't know how they age, right?
I don't know. Yeah. They might live forever. Like
But
in fame.
that could fit in easily with no thought.
I know that I think they've listed the planets that are going to be on there, but even just having a stint on Lothal would be really cool. I just kind of want to see a Lothwolf as kind of the background cameo Easter egg, as opposed to just banthas always. Like there's always like, where can we insert a bantha? And it's like, yeah, there's a bantha over there. Whatever.
The only thing I can see that happening is if there's like an endgame style battle at the end and they're bringing in every element of every single thing and they're like
God, I
put
hope
4
not.
Lothwolves in the back. That's the only like thing that I can really kind of have in my mind of being like where that would potentially show up.
I am
personally.
so sick of Lothal. And plus we got those, the Voltex.
Yeah, the crystal
Yeah,
creatures.
crystal
It's
foxes.
crystal critters.
What's
Yeah.
is it
Voltex, yeah. Oh, I don't
for
know.
the plural?
Oh, I have no idea.
Voltexes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got those, and those are Lothwolf like.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I'm tired of Lothal. Like, ugh.
Well, fine then. Fine. All right, let's fine.
Be that way.
Be that way. That's it. I'm done talking to you.
You're
Same.
welcome.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you. Would you like to tell people how they can find you?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. This is really fun. We just launched our new website recently. By the time this comes out, it will have been like a month or so, but that's www.forcetoastpod.com. And you can find all of the podcatchers that you can use to, and all the platforms you can use to listen to us there. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, all the big ones. And we're really active on Twitter, so come find us at Forced Toast Pod. And you can find each of our handles if you come find the podcast and come interact with us. We've got a really fun like group of people that we've sort of like built this community with and on Twitter, and we've been having a lot of fun there. So join us, will you?
Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe for more on the road to 9. Hit the bell icon so you're notified about future installments, and if you like what we do, you can support us by heading over to our Patreon and contributing. Even a small amount helps keep us producing content now and into the future.
Yay!
I'm really drunk.
I feel great, man.
I feel great, man. Great. I'm gonna hit save on that recording.
Do we do okay?
I'm incredibly sweaty, like really,
I'm gonna
really
put the air
sweaty.
conditioner on.
I need another shower, like stat.